Number 2. The story. The second biggest problem with The Phantom Menace is the whole story and the way it was told. It's almost mind-boggling how complex the awfulness is. From the very start of this movie, I could tell something was really wrong, just by the way it started.
It opens with some boring pilot asking for permission to land on a ship that looks like a half-eaten donut with a donut hole in the middle.
What the fuck is that?
Then two cloaked figures walk into a room in a completely flat angle. They sit down in a conference room, drink tea, and wait to talk about a trade dispute with something that looks like my ex-wife. While they eventually do get to the ball-numbing, mindless action that the fanboys crave,
I found myself utterly bored already.
Get the fuck out of here.
compare this fecal matter to the opening of the original Star Wars.
The way the story was told is suddenly a problem for you, but the way the story was told was with a level of intellect, knowledge, and humor to the likes the world hadn't seen back then. Nothing like that had ever been attempted before. It's another thing that makes it so special, the fact that it actually has substance behind it. There's so much substance in the prequels. Let me ask you a question. What is the plot of A Phantom Menace? Watch them get silent. They don't even know the plot of A Phantom Menace, but they want to quote-unquote school people on film. But why were you bored? You claimed there was something wrong with the way the movie opened. Like, what? All you've said so far is, it's boring. Such a poor assessment. And this is who people brag about and claim is the one who cemented the prequel perspective? Wow.
You see, a guy named William Shakespeare once said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." This just means don't waste my time.
You keep it nice and simple.
So if I decide to keep the plot simplified, then you'd be interested? Because you have a low attention span? I'm not going to condense my idea that I made because your attention span is this bad. The movie strongly tells you the role the trade play. George Lucas shouldn't condense his idea just because your attention span is bad. You do realize there are plenty of ideas that took their time with its characters and world. No Country for Old Men, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, The Wire, Weeds, S.H.I.E.L.D., Law and Order, among many others. These all took their time building on its characters and world, so why is it wrong for Lucas to do this? All because, and these are your words, you need to keep it nice and simple.
I said stop wasting my time. Stop it. Without saying one word of awkward, boring political dialogue that goes on for 10 minutes, we know everything we need to know just by the visuals. Rebels, Empire.
So you just broke down the entirety of the scene in A New Hope, down to just Empire and Rebels. What about the ideological concepts that make up the original trilogy's ideas? What about the philosophical concepts and motifs? What about the influences of Akira Kurosawa? Why would you break down a scene, simplify the hell out of it, then take away all nuance behind what it even meant, and say George needs to tell stories that way? Yes, it is a great cinematic shot, but what is your point? There are fantastic cinematic shots in Attack of the Clones, hell, in all the prequel films.
We get a sense of how small and ill-equipped the rebels are and how large and powerful the Empire is. The low angle implies dominance, and the length of the Star Destroyer implies the long reach of the Empire. This shot says everything we need to know without saying one word. In fact, this is so genius, I have a feeling that George Lucas had nothing to do with it and probably fought against putting it in the movie.
I think George fought against the idea of putting it in the movie. Wow, you dingling! You're such a moron. I can't believe you would say something like that. There's no evidence to support that George would even do such a thing. He's the one who directed it. He is the reason the shot is so iconic. He made the movie. He directed the scenes. That's A New Hope you're showing. Whose name is on the director's list of that movie? Whose name, Plinkett? Oh, that's right, George Lucas. So if you know that he directed it, why even make such a false claim? And again, with no proof or evidence to support your claim.
So this comparison of openings is a small example of the overall styles of both films. The original trilogy was a modern-day homage to the classic adventure serials of the past, the kind I used to watch when I was in my 40s. Good versus evil, the classic hero on a journey, the adventurous rogue, a damsel in distress.
She's not a damsel. Leia was a pretty competent character throughout the film, but I get the idea. You're streamlining complex aspects of filmmaking to simplify it for people who might not get it, or something along those lines, and it's unnecessary. All you have to do is just say it, but don't condense it. You even wanted to condense scenes? What? Whole entire scenes? Come on!
The wise old sage, gay robots, and an epic quest of discovery. The new movies are about shoving as much crap into each shot as possible.
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
This is part of the reason why I find the special editions so fucking offensive. Because you're into what's happening in the movie, and they keep shoving more shit on the screen to distract you. It reminds me of a child waving his arms in the background for attention. Doesn't Lucas realize that cluttering the frame up with shit is not what makes Star Wars good?
Special editions were just George wanting to update the original design. We have access to the original trilogy as well. You can see both now and compare the two. The ending scenes and aspects of The Empire Strikes Back, like Cloud City, are more fleshed out with special effects. You know that, right? Also, the puppets looked a bit dated, and he was able to update this as well. Now, I get it if you don't like it, but we grew up with it and loved it all and didn't care about the special edition changes. OT purists did. Then I got older and saw the original. Loved it, but can still see the special editions just fine as well. Guys who support Red Letter Media and OT purists are the world's biggest drama queens.
Doesn't Lucas realize that
Cluttering the frame up with shit
Is not what makes Star Wars good.
It's not crap, genius. It's the Battle of Geonosis. You have to see the battle in order to gauge what's going on with the fight. You have to see the war. You have to see the battle. So how is the Battle of Geonosis just crap when it's one of the most essential battles in the Star Wars universe? You find like 2 shots. Wow. It's not that serious, dude. It's like 2 shots and some lightsaber changes. They also added to places like Bespin and expanded on its environment and location. It's 1 shot, dude. I keep saying this. These are important battles. They have to be shown in order to see the damn battle in action. In order to see, you need technology. As I'm sure you know, special effects, technology to show off soldiers, vehicles, people dying, all this stuff. And it's to show the battle, to show the war, so that isn't pointless stuff as you stated.
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
fuck you, Rick Berman. You ruined this too? Stop ruining. Wait a minute. That ain't Rick Berman. What is it with Ricks? So the film is called The Phantom Menace, and by the nature of the story, there is no clear villain. Hey, idiot! You're not making the usual suspects here. You're making a movie for children, right?
Supreme Chancellor, delegates of the Senate, a tragedy has occurred.
Which started right here with the taxation of trade routes and has now engulfed our entire planet in the oppression of the...
Star Wars is for everybody, so it doesn't matter. For you to constantly, ad nauseum, keep using the children's argument is foolish when there are mature movies directed towards a younger audience that still garner critical acclaim and are mature, and adults watch them too. So who cares? Incredibles, The Iron Giant, Secret of NIMH, and more. The point still stands. Star Wars can have projects directed towards a younger audience that is still mature. See that? They are discussing the actual plot. The plot you said made no sense. The taxation of Naboo is in dispute. This trade dispute is causing a huge problem for the Galactic Senate, so they're discussing what to do about it.
How about a bad guy in the movie whose motivation is clear?
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
The prequel should be very similar in style to the original.
because I don't like things that are different.
The motivations are clear, genius. The Chancellor is evil. He's manipulating the Senate from behind the scenes to get the Jedi Council to go to war in order to cause a war, thus controlling both sides. You wanted clarity? There it is right there.
Number 3, death and space taxes. So when you find yourself thinking things like, huh? Or what? When you're watching how illogical characters act in a movie, it's not really a good sign. Now, I've analyzed this film with a team of cheerleaders. They came up with one unanimous conclusion, that if I let them go, they promise they won't tell nobody. Anyways, so at the end of the movie, Yoda makes Obi-Wan a Jedi Knight.
Confer on you the level of Jedi Knight. The Council does.
Even though in the opening titles it says he's a Jedi Knight. So we'll just call them Jedi Knights too. People call me a murderer even though I ain't never been caught yet. So the Jedis are there to do what exactly? According to the opening title crawl, it was to settle a dispute over the taxation of trade routes. Oh, So what makes the Jedi Knights experts in intergalactic trade laws? So the Trade Federation have set up a blockade around Naboo in order to stop them from getting space supplies, which instantly causes some kind of crisis that we never see. Okay.
The movie strongly tells you the role the Trade Federation play. They are formulating a blockade so they can force the Queen to sign a treaty to make invading the planet legal. Space trade is what gives them their food, supplies, materials to build their homes. You take away their trade, they can't get supplies, they can't get food, they can't get anything. Don't you see that? You say the characters act illogical. Give some examples. Show some evidence of this. If not, then once again you're making an accusation of the film that isn't even true.
I don't get it. Why would an organization called the Trade Federation want to blockade trade?
There's the blockade.
Usually a blockade is to stop something you don't want to get in. You see, we once set up a naval blockade around Cuba to stop the Russians from setting up missile launchers there. It was a little event you might have heard of. It wasn't a big deal, but you might have heard of it. It was called World War I. Geez, you stupid people gotta learn your history right. So if the Trade Federation were like merchants moving goods and services around the galaxy, then why did they seem more like a military with armies of robots?
The characters you showed in question are surprised the Jedi have come. That's why Palpatine told them to kill them. They weren't supposed to be there, but yet there they are. So they sent Jordicas after them, but that didn't work. Before that, they tried gas. That didn't work. So they're trying to kill them. How is that illogical if they want to kill them? Yes, it is to settle a dispute around trade routes. What was so hard about that to understand? The Trade Federation is formulating a blockade in Naboo, and 2 Jedi are sent in to quell the issue. It's a taxation dispute, and the Jedi have to come to a negotiation. It causes a crisis, yes, and we do see it. That's why you should have paid attention to Padme's story. Padme's story shows the effects of the crisis. Also, the movie is focusing on multiple characters, so it can't stop everything just to show specifics all the time. Why would the Trade Federation want to blockade trade? To make the Queen sign a treaty to make the invasion legal. That's why they can legally take over the planet. That's more power than just having supplies. Why do they seem more like a military? That's the point. They are a galactic federation of technology and weapons. They trade more than just supplies, and they have weapons and technology.
However, if they were like a bureaucracy that was in charge of overseeing and regulating trade routes, you'd think they'd be happy about the whole new space taxes. Unless all the taxes went straight to like Space Obama and they didn't see any of it. The point is, I'm still not sure what the donut ships were there to do. And don't any of you tell me that it was explained more in the novelization or some Star Wars book. What matters is the movie. I ain't never read one of them Star Wars books, or any books in general for that matter. I ain't about to start. Don't talk about them stupid video games or novels, comic books, or any of that fucking crap. I seen enough of that shit. I got Phantom Menace toys scattered all over in my basement. You see my grandkids play with them down there when they come
over to visit, and they leave that shit all over the place. Let me see if I can find some of them so I can show you. I'm gonna go down in my basement now, hold on. I gotta switch the cameras. What's this? What is this, some kind of Darth Maul toy? Where's Windows?
I said quiet! I'm making my review!
Anyway, so I realized that Senator Palpatine was using the Trade Federation to create a crisis to advance himself politically. Like that was the plot, I think. But the conflict from the blockade and the subsequent invasion is the entire movie. Understanding what role the Trade Federation played in this is important. You know, what the blockade was about, who was getting taxed, what kind of supplies were so crucial to the Naboo. What was it, like medical supplies? Was there some kind of plague? Did they not have the capacity to survive on such a lush planet with a huge power reactor for 1 day without space trade? You see, I would have accepted the idea of some kind of mystery villain if the basics were at least clear. So when 2 guys wearing robes come on board their ship, Rosie the robot just assumes they are Jedi Knights and tells the Shatnerians.
The ambassadors are Jedi Knights, I believe.
Even though almost every single character wears robes in Star Wars. Then somehow this robot knows or thinks they're Jedi Knights. Hey idiots, so much for the disguise. Even a protocol droid could sniff you out. Maybe it's not a disguise, but whatever.
Actually, it's not a disguise, so that was once again invalid criticism. Try again.
So the Shatnerians immediately inform this mystery guy who they're running this scam with?
Yeah, the mystery guy. You know, the guy who is playing both sides of the war to make both sides fight so he can achieve more power from the inside. The same one you missed. And once again, it's finally over. See you in part 3. This was Tarragon. Thank you for watching.